I am wearing a t-shirt. Well, it's a vest. You just can't see it. Pull it up a bit. Hide some like hairy chest. I don't know why that's why I started the video. Hey Spuds, it's Jamie. Welcome back to another video, your first video on the channel. I don't know, but welcome either way. I'm very glad to have you here. And today we are here for the very second installment of a semi-regularly planned video topic on this channel now, starting from the last time I made it. Yay! We are here for some Am I the Arseholes? Yes, we are looking at arseholes. That doesn't sound right, does it? We're determining if people are arseholes. I feel like I want to be too nice to do this. Like, I'm like, oh no, nobody's an arsehole. But then actually when it comes down to it, I think I could be like, no, big arsehole. Or no, not an arsehole. The other person is the big arsehole. So today we're going to be having a look at some trans-themed Am I the Arseholes? That's like, Shaba does a lot of these. If you want to go check them out, she does them very frequently. They're very good videos. I would recommend going. I've linked her channel in the description box if you want to go watch them. I want to do LGBT plus themed ones only, and today it's a trans one. Am I the arsehole for not wanting to tell our daughter about my past identity? Now, I need to determine if these Am I the Arseholes are LGBT plus based on the title alone, because I'm making very quick decisions and I'm like, are you the right kind of category of arseholey post? I don't know. This one I read and I was like, oh, is this a trans thing? This sounds like it could be a trans thing, but maybe not. I'm going to have a look. Please excuse my grammar / formatting mistakes. Currently at work writing on mobile and accidentally left my glasses at home. That sounds like a pain. To cut directly to it, I, 34M, is transgender, FTM. I read that and I was like, I knew it. I already had feelings on this topic by this point. I don't know what everybody else's feelings are. I just personally am very strongly on the side of, as soon as my kids are old enough to speak to and in some way comprehend what I'm telling them, I will be introducing the fact that I am trans to them. I told my sisters-in-law when they were 7 and they were like, they got it. They're so chill. They're 12 now. They're still so chill. So I don't have any nerves going into it. I don't know if that's naive of me. Somebody in my family was adopted when they were younger and they were told when they were 3, and they said that that just made the whole process a lot easier because they knew from such a young age. It was just part of their life. They always knew it, they always understood it, always accepted it, and it was never like a question or something that blindsided them when they were older. I'm not judging other people's decisions here, this is just speaking from my own personal perspective. Anyway, that was a very long ramble for literally not even reading a full sentence of this post, so shall we carry on? Just to remind you, I, 34M, is transgender FTM and married to my husband, 36M, who we'll call Mike, and we have an adopted daughter together called Lily, not actually Lily, 11. Now here's where the issue lies. Lily's school had watched something about LGBTQ at her school and they had a trans guy come talk about his experience in the video. Oh, that's so cool. I love this. Teaching kids about LGBTQ plus stuff. Lily had apparently talked about it when Mike picked it up from school. She didn't really know what it was, but was, in her words, very proud of the TV guy for being so brave about it. Kids don't give a shit. If kids learn about stuff, they will be open-minded. It won't make them LGBT+, it will just make them open-minded, and if they are LGBT+, then it will make them feel like they can actually come out and be themselves. Anyways, after dinner, when Lily was in her room and Mike and I were cleaning up, he told me that I should tell her that I also used to be a girl. Not my personal choice for wording, but sure, if this is what another trans guy is comfortable with, then fair. Now, I'm on testosterone and fully transitioned since far before we even met, and before adopting, we talked about it and agreed that it was my decision, but we weren't going to tell her before she was 10 to not cause any confusion. I might be being over judgy, and it is personal preference in terms of how things are worded, but I'm having like issues with a couple things. In particular, not gonna tell her before she was 10 to not cause any confusion. Like I said, I told my sisters-in-law when they were 7, and yes, like each kid is different, so they're gonna understand different things at different ages potentially, blah blah blah, but they had no issues understanding at 7. The person I knew who was told they were adopted at 3, like they didn't fully understand what it meant, but they got the essence of it, and then they grew up understanding it and getting more information about it right from the beginning, and that just made it so much easier. I don't think under 10 is too young to understand. They might not fully understand every single detail about it, but on a top level, they'll get what you're telling them. I'm not personally keen on the like before she was 10 to not cause any confusion, because I really don't think it would have caused confusion prior to 10. And when she was 8, I decided that I wasn't going to tell her since no one other than my husband really knows about it since I don't talk to my parents anymore. When I told Mike about it, he said that it was cool. I appreciate that your husband is supporting your decision with what you disclose about your own past and your identity. I personally disagree with not telling kids because it's just like they will find out. They are going to find out. I find it really difficult to believe that it's just gonna be a kept secret forever. Like, whether that's right, I know this sounds really morbid, but whether this is like when you die or something, at one point or another, like 90% plus chance it's gonna come out, and it's way better that they hear it from you as the parent than they find out through another means, because that's when it would cause more confusion, but probably more in the sense that they didn't grow up knowing that, and it's like shifted a lot in their worldview. Potentially, if you grow up knowing that something is the case, that's very like just typical to you. That is in your like scope of worldview, right? But if you find out when you're like 30 something is different to what you always believed or always assumed, that is going to take a lot more mental adjustment than if you found out when you were 5. Not to say that it couldn't work out absolutely fine if they found out when they were older, but I'm just so like, I don't want to have to hide that. I don't want to walk on eggshells when talking about my past, or worry that I'm gonna slip up on something that would reveal I'm trans. Also, I cannot hide it. Hello, I make it like just impossible for me to hide it. But even if it were possible to like cover up in some way, I just feel so uncomfortable. I don't want this to come across as judgy, and I'm not telling people what they should do. It's just like a really strong personal preference and belief of mine that I will be telling my kids. Whether I was online or not. But now a few years later, he says that since she had a positive response to that video, she probably will to this too. Potentially, not guaranteed, but like potentially. I told him no, and that we'd already agreed not to tell her, but he thinks it's fine because she's older now, she'll get it. But I don't think that some guy on TV and her dad would be the same thing. She might not handle this as well. I completely respect and appreciate the worry. Like, really, it was a worry of mine that like, oh my god, what if my kids reject me or don't accept me or something bad happens? I've just been so reassured by so many stories. I'm not just like trans people coming out to kids, but just like kids growing up knowing things about people or the world and just being so accepting if they know from a young age, because, you know, they're not taught bigotry. So why would they not accept you? It's not a concern I have anymore. It might take a little bit of like, okay, let me just get my head around this. But saying that, I do appreciate why somebody would be nervous. And I don't think it would be fair on the husband to pressure the trans dad in this situation to come out to the daughter. It's not for the husband to put pressure on him about. I don't really want her seeing me like something else than a normal guy. I have big issues with the phrase normal guy. I feel like I'm stopping the flow of this reading so much, but there's just a lot to discuss. Okay, I'm not making assumptions. That, to me, maybe some like mild internal lack of acceptance that's being projected outwards, because why aren't you a normal guy? I just find that phrasing is something that I can see people slip into when they talk about trans people and like normality and what's typical. It's not something that as a trans person comes very naturally, and not something I've seen come very naturally to a lot of trans people I know, to outwardly describe themselves as like not a normal guy. That just feels a bit off to me. And I don't really want her seeing me like something else than a normal guy, but that's not the only reason. I just don't really want anyone to know in general. And that's fair. If you are stealth and you don't want people to know, kids might tell people. Kids might tell their friends and you can't control that. But is that a good enough reason to keep it a secret from your child forever? I'm asking this as a rhetorical question. And I think of maybe telling her when she's older, but Mike says that there's a chance she might get upset growing up without knowing this, even though I'm not really sure I'm going to tell her at all. I think that there's way more likelihood that she'd be upset finding out when she's like a teenager or in her 20s than finding out when she's 11. But now Mike's mad at me and telling me he'd like to know if it was his parents. So I can't help but wonder, am I the arsehole? Okay, so that's the end of like the original post. There are some edits below which we will read in a second, but I think for now let's address this bit of the post. Is he the arsehole? I would not call him an arsehole. I think arsehole is wrong. I think this is like the wrong categorization. I would absolutely not call him an arsehole. It's difficult because like I really do have such a strong take on like, I think it's important to tell kids where they've come from. I absolutely could never imagine not telling my children that I'm trans, I absolutely will be telling them as early as I think is appropriate for my kids to know. Because I don't want to have to hide something from my kids. I don't want to have to worry about them coming across certain photographs or grandparents saying certain things or other people saying certain things or just not being able to have open discussions about a big part of who I am in front of them. And I know that not everybody is as open about being trans as I am, or as open talking about it even with partners as I am. Everybody's different, but just it must come up occasionally. I also just would be terrified that they'd find out a different way. And so let's pretend I'm not online. Let's pretend this video is just for myself. I'm not widely known as a trans person. Let's pretend that doesn't exist. I would still tell my kid. A lot of my photos would absolutely not reveal anything. Some would. A lot definitely would. I just wouldn't want them finding out in a different way. I think it'd be so important that they found out from me. And I think also because there would have to be a discussion around where said child/children came from, adoption, donor, surrogacy. I'm not speaking just from like where my child will come from, but just like generally, a lot of trans people may not be biologically related to their kids, or the relationship they're in, both parents won't be biologically related, neither parent may be all of the different reasons. I think just in that kind of package of telling them, that I'm very firm on. Like, absolutely, I think kids should know if a donor has been used or they've been adopted or anything. I think children absolutely need to know, and as young as possible, preferably, in my opinion. And then for me, the trans thing comes as a package with that. It's such a complicated topic. I'm sorry, that's why I'm sounding so muddled, and I do have very strong opinions on it, but I don't want to shame people for being worried about sharing the information and having their concerns and worried about what it means to tell a child this. Like Sharp and I would be looking into sperm donors, that would require a conversation and would then just be like, because dad is trans kind of thing, is a natural part of the conversation to me. If you tell children at the right time, they will understand, and there's a high likelihood they'll find out in adulthood, and they may be less inclined to understand. It may shock them more. Most of the time when you hear about people finding out big things like about their parents or about where they come from when they're adults, most of the anger and the upset and the shock doesn't come from the fact that they were adopted or they have a trans parent or that a sperm donor was used. It comes from the fact that they weren't told. So yeah, I just think it's so important to tell kids where they're from. Hello everyone, after reading your answers, I've realised that I am not the arsehole, but kind of wrong. Anyways, I'd like to thank you all for the help in pushing me to do the right decision. I have talked and apologised to my husband, and we decided that we'll tell her, but after having a few conversations with her about the TV guy and see if she is likely to understand, which I definitely think she will. And yes, I'm aware that she is still a child and might tell others, but I am prepared for that. It was the right decision. I'm very glad to read that. Genuinely felt like it was coming from a place of personal worry and personal fear about telling a child and the ramifications of that, rather than fully thinking about just fundamentally what is best for the child to know. And that's okay. I'm not saying that they were wrong. We all think like that sometimes. In terms of just like what is best for the child, it is for them to know. If you disagree, let me know. Very happy to have a conversation about it. Mike is currently at the gym, but when he comes home, I'm going to discuss therapy for Lily with him, as I think that's a father-to-father conversation to have. As for the pictures of me as a child, I told my family when I was 12 and was very tomboy before that, so she has seen a few. I don't think he's an asshole at all. I completely appreciate the worry that he would have in telling her, not just in her reaction, but telling others and their reactions, and if it's just something that you want to keep private, I get it. But at the end of the day, that's your child. That is something that they will likely find out one day, and they will be most unhappy about not being told by you and not being told earlier, and it's something that I really think they should know. And that's it. I think we will just cover one in this video because it almost has turned into not a am I the arsehole video, but just I think it's a topic of video that was important to discuss, and I had thought about making a video on this topic before about like, should I tell my kids I'm trans? And I think it's a great thing. Concluding statement, personally yes, and personally I will be, but I'm not like judging harshly people who don't want to do it, because I completely appreciate the fear of saying it and the worry, but at the end of the day, I think it is the right thing to do. I'm very open to people disagreeing with that. Just my personal belief on it. So let me know in the comments down below what you think. Also, just to reiterate, absolutely don't think it makes you an arsehole not to do it. So am I the arsehole? This was not an arseholey post. They're not an arsehole at all. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Think about giving a thumbs up and subscribing if you want to, and I'll see you next time. Much love. Bye.